What's up everybody, Brett here, coming back at you with some more 2v2s in Total War Warhammer 2. And today I'm going to be playing as the High Elves. I took good boy Tyrion, and we're going to give him some use. He's not a guy you see a lot in the meta right now for the High Elves, but I still think he is an excellent choice in most matchups. He brings a lot to the table as far as having a tanky, very powerful melee duelist lord. So I was a bit confused there for a second. I had forgotten that I had placed these guys so far back, and I did that for a reason. So while I go over my army here, I'm going to break it down for you why I decided to place these guys where I did. So front line of cheap spearmen, nice and shielded. They'll stand and fight, silver shields. You know, we were going up against another High Elf army as well as the Norskins. So I was a bit worried about large units and ranged units. So luckily for me, spearmen are the perfect package at dealing with both of those things. Backline here is Lothern Sea Guard out on the flanks, the non-shielded variant. I like having them just to double as anti-large spearmen if I need them. They're a very cost-effective unit. And I had a bit of extra gold, so I was able to upgrade my standard archers to the light armor variant. I don't find there's much advantage to doing that. 40 armor isn't really going to save them if they don't have the melee stats necessary to fend off something like a hound unit, like the Norscan Ice Wolves. They're going to die either way. So I don't like using the gold that way, but I did have extra gold, so that's where I put it. My backline, my artillery piece, having a single Eagle Claw bolt thrower, I think gives you a lot of versatility. Against a faction like Norska that doesn't have any artillery, it's going to be able to do work. Let's say they brought mammoths or other very large targets, frost worms for instance. The Eagle Claw bolt thrower, with its heavy armor piercing and decent range at 380, would be able to do quite a bit of damage to them. Also, if the High Elf player had decided to take a lot of artillery, we would be able to counter skirmish it with ours. Very accurate is the Eagle Claw bolt thrower. So front line, you'll have noticed I have this kind of lone badass here. This is the Lore Master of Hoeth. So he's a spellcaster. You can bring quite a few different spells with him. He's very versatile. The two that I like to bring the most are Spirit Leech, which is a damage over time, Lore of Death ability, as well as Earth Blood. So he's going to be providing the AoE healing to our front line as needed. He also has pretty decent missile resistance, kind of the lore behind them. I think I've said this in other videos, but for those of you who don't know, is these guys are so awesome that they can cut arrows out of the sky with their huge swords. So it's as if they are shielded. And they provide an encouragement aura. So all of these units fighting near them will be inspired to fight longer. They'll have better leadership and so on. So here's Tyrion himself. And I've got him on his mount. He's very quick, 95 speed. Very heavily armored, 125 armor. And his stats are just juiced. You'll see 79 melee attack, 72 melee defense, 490 weapon strength, and 90 charge bonus. And he's basically unbreakable with 98 leadership. His stats all the way down the board are just ridiculous. And you bring Stand Your Ground, he can provide leadership and melee defense and an AoE. Let's see what else I have on him. Feint and Riposte. So more melee defense, more melee attack, and then 22% physical resistance. It lasts 28 seconds. This is huge. Whenever he's fighting another lord or he finds himself isolated, this ability will come in handy, will save you. And Sunfang, kind of the main reason you bring him, gives him an AoE kind of magic dealing option. It's a tier-shaped wave attack. So let's say you were to cast it at this angle facing this way, it would decimate an entire line of lower tier infantry. And you'll see me get a few kills with that early on against the Marauders of the Norskins. And he also has the Heart of Avalorn. So if his HP drops and he goes to die, he can quite often get a large burst of HP that will, I want to say it usually gives him about 1,000 hit points when that procs, depending on like your unit model size. This is a very small unit model count. I normally play on Ultra, and I believe on Ultra it'll give you about 1,000 HP. So back here is kind of my mobile goon squad, and they're perhaps the most important piece of my army. There are two nobles up on the Great Eagles. These guys are anti-large, armor-piercing hero units, and they're very fast, as it says here in their unit card. being up on the Great Eagles with 110 movement speed. And I paired them with the Frostheart Phoenix. Should go ahead and have a look at this guy. He has 2 abilities, and if it'll let me click on him, is an aura effect. I'm making myself dizzy doing this, so I apologize. Yeah, well, I can't click on them, unfortunately, in these replays here. But one of them is an effect that gives him physical resistance as long as your mana is above 50%. And he also has an aura that lowers melee defense. And he's just generally a great unit because he does cost terror. Having terror against low leadership factions, for instance, Norsca is often I would describe it as a low leadership faction, can cause serious routing here. So very long intros here, and I don't want to miss anything too crucial. An excellent Burning Skull here from the Empire's Bright Wizard, and he had Net of Amnatok cast on him by Teclis, which locked him down and allowed all of these archers to get some decent shots onto him. The Hellblaster Volley Gun, let me go ahead and pause it because I really don't want to miss anything here. The Hellblaster Volley Gun, incredible armor-piercing damage, not the best range, perhaps a bit of its line of sight being blocked here by these swordsmen, not quite great placement there. Up on this hill would have been a great position, but they shredded with their first volley these Lothern Sea Guard, did a ton of damage to them. Carl Franz up on Deathclaw. He's got tiger stripes, kind of a really unique griffin mount for him. Leadership shattering, he does have Blood Roar as an ability. He also had these Outriders with grenade launchers vanguarded, very dangerous against the High Elves who do outrange them greatly. But they're very mobile, they can only fire in a cone in front of themselves. Would have been great over here against the Norskins, able to outrun them and do lots of hit and run tactics. Just a ton of swordsmen mixed with spearmen with shields and a couple great swords here in the back. I like that. You don't want them up in the front line taking the brunt of the damage. So 2 units of those, as well as 2 units of crossbowmen. Units you don't get to see very often, but against the low armor having units of the Norskins, as well as some of the squishier high elf archer units. They'll be pretty cost effective in their trading. The enemy high elf player has a nice little mobile attack force here. 2 silver helms with shields facing the wrong direction, perhaps anticipating, as I was, and I said I was going to get to that, so I'm going to do it right now. Anticipating some sort of vanguard shenanigans in the back here, and perhaps facing that way to meet that just in case. 2 units of the Swordmasters of Hoeth, the elite units of heavy armor-piercing anti-infantry units available to the High Elves. They're kind of the regiment version of the Lore Master that I have in my army. So 2 units of those, lots of spearmen in the front, 2 of which are already dead. I think this is an overcast Burning Skull, placed perfectly. Teclis, let's look at his spells here. He has the potion that allows him to get physical resistance as well as HP regen at the cost of increasing his cooldowns. He has the Net of Amnatok, which he already used to good effect against this Bright Wizard here, taking him down to 855 HP. He also has Flock of Doom and Regrowth, so he can get some heals and he can do some AoE damage in a dot. So at this point in the game was lagging heavily, and I do believe it was the Norskin player. So any element of surprise was definitely lost in these builds. And expecting some sort of Vanguard deployment from the Norskin player especially, or some Illyrian Reavers or something like that from the High Elf player, I put my very mobile Air Force here, and had there been some units in this back corner Vanguard deployed behind my army, they would have instantly killed it. It really doesn't even matter what it would have been. Two nobles plus Tyrion and a Frostheart Phoenix are enough to rout just about anything. So let me go ahead and slow-mo it again for you guys. Tons of Marauders, some Spearmen out here on the flanks. 2 Famir Warriors with great weapons. Would be very good if I had a very heavily armored front line. Let's say some Swordmasters or something to that effect, or any kind of large units. They're great at stopping up the Dragon Princes if I was trying to do some frontward charging shenanigans with Dragon Princes, as well as a single unit of Norskin Ice Wolves. A large, very quick unit that has the Frostbite status effect, that slows any units that they come into contact with. And I like these guys a lot because they serve kind of a necessary backline harass role, or if someone overextends, then their slowing attacks are able to keep them pinned. They're very versatile. They're a very versatile unit, and they hit quite hard with 42 weapon strength, so that's something to keep in mind. Wulfric the Wanderer on his chariot with most of his abilities. I see Seafang down there, might be looking to get some kind of a Seafang down my front line if I don't dodge it. He also brought 2 units of armored skin wolves, which he is charging into the Empire player with these other Norscan ice wolves, and this Werekin. All of its buffs are popped, so Deadly Onslaught plus Foe Seeker. These are all very scary units because of their regen, and the Werekin hero unit is an extremely scary duelist when you can get him one-on-one with some other armored hero unit. And a unit of javelins in the back to give them a little bit of pressure against any kind of air units. So you'll see the engagement is going down pretty heavily on the Empire side, but that's going to give me a chance to really break this Norscan front. I have everything I need to crush them. My archers are going to focus down these javelins and just take them out. They're not shielded. And just to quickly rush them off the battlefield, they're the only thing that can really threaten my air force on this side of the map. So we're just going to quickly knock them out. Oh, a nice Sunfang here. Going to go off into these low-tier infantry. And that's big damage. The spearmen are going to hold as long as we need them to. Tyrion's in the front line, banging it out with these Famir warriors. And he's going to do great there. Wulfric was able to come up and around and get into my Lothern Sea Guard. And they gave him a little bit of his own medicine back to him, being that they are anti-large. They do have charge defense. So they weren't completely helpless, but it sucks to lose them that early. Tyrion's going to get into the back line here and fend off Wulfric the Wanderer. On his chariot, he's not nearly as good of a duelist as Tyrion is on his horse. Loremaster of Hoeth holding it down while my air force spreads out and tries to chase off all the routing units that you see there. The back line of my Empire ally has been compromised by this Silverhelm noble composition. He's got a lot of spearmen to chase them off. Karl Franz is also a very great duelist against any large targets. Heavy armor piercing there. You see he has Gal Maraz and the Reichland Runefang giving him large bonuses to his armor piercing and anti-large damage. So here we go. We broke off Wulfric, and we're going to cast a Spirit Leech on him just to kill him, make sure we don't have to chase him down. Lothern Sea Guard are rallying, and my Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower is in a bit of a tough spot, so we're going to pull it back a bit, and we're going to start firing onto the other side of the battlefield. Wulfric goes down there, and that should be nearly all she wrote for the Norskins. It's really just cleanup duty for me and securing my line so that I can then come to the aid of my Empire ally, who, to his credit, despite fighting some of the scarier units of Norska and the entire High Elf army, is holding quite well with his low-tier troops. Some excellent shots coming off from the Hellblaster volley gun point blank into these Swordmasters. And now it's being overwhelmed, unfortunately, by the Skin Wolves, the armored variant. Very tough unit to dislodge. Another Burning Skull going off. Clipping a few units there. Perhaps not the best cast, and this is a pretty scary position for a lightly armored caster to be in. If the High Elf player were deciding to start focusing down the Bright Wizard with all of this archer fire, he would take a lot of damage. Little Flock of Doom you'll see going off there. And here you see I'm squaring up. I'm looking to cross this river and push these guys from this flank. Force them to fight on two sides. The crossbowmen never really got shut down. I'm happy to see these grenade launchers are still online, and we can take a look at these guys. Hopefully we'll get some nice shots. Crossbowmen still online. The spearmen are going to be pretty efficient at dealing with the skin wolves. There we go, some nice grenade shots. A little bit of friendly fire there, but they were nearly broken to begin with, and these were pretty healthy spearmen, so pretty much worth. The great swords fighting the Swordmasters. The Swordmasters will always win that one-on-one, and with the aid of Teclis, they are certainly able to break them off. I've been using my equal bolt thrower to shoot at the Sword Masters of Hoeth, and I've killed quite a few models there. You'll see they only have 2 kills, which isn't great for a unit that expensive. So a nice, I think this is called Firestorm, going off on these archers. It's going to get quite a few kills. And it's going to take a nice turn here. Go right back into these Lothern Sea Guard. And then right back into these archers. So very lucky Vortex from the Bright Wizard. Karl Franz ended up taking a pretty rough net and a lot of damage from the focus fire of the archers, but he's back. And him being pinned by the crew of the Hellblaster volley gun. How unfortunate. Teclis is going to get crushed by a Karl Franz with 200 HP. My spearmen are crossing the river, going to be helping to fend off these skin wolves, and they're very good at that. And the Lore Master of Hoeth is also an excellent duelist in his own right. He's going to be able to fight off that werekin. So to that point, our allies win the day, and our enemies concede. So let's go ahead and end the replay and take a look at the breakdown here. So I will say that our Empire ally did a great job. His very cheap, very wide front line of anti-large shielded units were able to hold back the High Elves very well, long enough for me to win my side of the fight and then come to his aid. Not a lot of big numbers here, but this was a low model count fight, so you could almost double some of these numbers and you would have an idea in a normal unit-sized fight how effective these units were. The Norska player, unfortunately, threw away some of his assets early on. Getting the Skin Wolves and the Werekin into the Empire player wasn't a bad call. A lot of times you could win by overloading one opponent, but then what you don't want to do is engage with half an army against a full army. If he would have kept half his army back and then used his mobile forces, let's say these Ice Wolves and Skin Wolves, to engage just the Empire player, it would have forced me to leave my position and march. And I would have lost a lot of time trying to do that. Meanwhile, the Empire player would have been overwhelmed and possibly would have had all of their range units, their Hellblaster volley guns and such, nullified. Great Bright Wizard play from the Empire player, and also good Net of Amnatok play from Teclis. He got nearly killed the Bright Wizard and Karl Franz 2 times. So good job there. Perhaps a bit sloppy with the nobles early on. He flanked the Empire player quite well. You bring the nobles on horseback for their anti-large, and mixing them amongst the Silver Helms is certainly a good strategy. But if Karl Franz is going to charge you from the air, you're not going to get your charge bonus onto him. He's going to get his charge bonus onto you. So you want to disengage. You need to be very conscious of your micro whenever a flying lord that has a lot of armor piercing is on the battlefield, because they're quite easy to dodge on the charge, and then you just turn around and charge them once they're on the ground. And you get the charge and they don't. So a little bit of fancy micro there perhaps could have saved these nobles early on. And a bit ineffective with one of these Sword Masters of Hoeth. As I mentioned during the game, I was able to, a lot of these kills here, these later kills, perhaps 10 of these, were purely on some Sword Masters of Hoeth. So that's a lot of value there. So alright guys, hope you enjoyed that match. Once again, my name is Brett. My channel is Good Talk Gaming. I'm going to be doing coverage on the upcoming DLC with the Vampire Coast, and I'm super excited to do that for you guys. So I hope you stay tuned and follow the campaign coverage, because I haven't really delved into campaigns yet on my channel, but of all the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours that I've spent between Total War Warhammer 1 and 2, the vast majority of that was in campaigns, and I think that's where I play this game the best. As much as I love multiplayer, the campaigns are certainly what I love the most. So without any further ado guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.